Let's turn our attention to your former club and your love of Arsenal, who, of course, were fought back from 2-0 down to Sandwich Shores in Liverpool yesterday. Forget that. Mikel Arteta's side are still fighting to secure second place in the Premier League and gave Liverpool a guard of honour before kick-off. He spoke to the media, your manager, after the game and said that he was extremely disappointed to let the Reds storm to a 2-0 lead at half-time.
We can draw and we can talk about reaction. I'm not into reaction, I'm in action mode. And what we did in the first 25 minutes, my opinion, it was nowhere near the level. After the PSG, I said we were the better team, we deserve much more. It was a game twice, and it's unbelievable that we weren't through in the final. But today, in the first 25 minutes, we got to concede 3 or 4, and it's nowhere near the standards. After, yes, with 10 men, and we have half of our starter missing still. And still we can play that way. So that's what we have to demand ourselves.
We should talk about Arsenal, not just the game yesterday, but where they are now after the season is over.
2 seconds.
It's going to be, yeah, but it's
not really over.
Oh, yes, it's over. Hold on,
they need to get 1 point to secure, their position.
Emmanuel, come on, it's over. No silverware.
No, but they've still got to finish.
Mathematically, it's not over. They can drop, and be out of the Champions League.
You won't get out of the Champions League.
How do you know? No. They've got Newcastle next.
Well, the way we're dealing things, the last few weeks, I'm not. I'm confident,
But what's happening?
The next game is against Newcastle at home.
What's happening with Arsenal?
What's happening? I think it was terrible, to lose against Paris Saint-Germain, but as well, this game at home against West Ham when they lost, I think it was in February, something like that.
Yeah, 1-0.
I think
was it 1-0 header, wasn't it?
And all the injured players, I think always the same story at the end of the season. Bad news coming, one after all, and you were so close to get something, and then in the end you fell, and it's always the same story. So very disappointing. And yesterday I watched with highlights, the game, and in space of 2 minutes I went to the toilet. I came back and they scored 2 goals. And I was shocked, when I look at the highlights, the way they defended. They was so sloppy, with no conviction.
Did you see the interview after the second game against PSG, the one that knocked Arsenal out of the Champions League, where Arteta said that they were the better team?
No, I disagree.
Why would he say that?
I disagree. This is some manager that it's only communication. It's like try to get something from nothing, because at the end you are not qualified anymore. You're not reaching the final. So I think I had the feeling that he was kind of bad loser. I think if he's honest, I think he must recognize that Paris Saint-Germain was a better team than Arsenal, especially the first leg at the Emirates. They were much better than Arsenal. And Arsenal, I think they did everything, to come back at Paris. I think they started very well. They should have scored the first 10 minutes of the game. I think they lost the qualification on the first 15 minutes of both games. And you can argue, about expecting goals. I'm so tired of this. Expecting goal, what does that mean? It's like you're young and you're flirting with girls and you're almost there, but you don't get it. I mean,
how do you know about my teenage years?
I almost expected to do what but I didn't.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I know exactly what it means. For years I had that problem. Jeez, bringing it all back now.
I don't mind XG, but it can be a bit misleading. But I do think you're right. The first 15 minutes of the home leg wasn't good enough, and then the first 50 minutes of the second leg, where they should have scored, didn't have that killer instinct to get that goal. But I thought the reaction second half, because I worried after watching the first half, the way it started against Liverpool, I thought, oh my goodness, this could be a cricket score. But the way they came out so quickly, and ultimately at the end, I know Liverpool had the goal disallowed by Odegaard. I mean, hold on. Actually, not even just about Arsenal. Odegaard, what's going on there?
He looked tired the whole season. I think he was missing performance. Saka. Obviously, when Saka is on the pitch, he is always going on the right side. Try to get the connection with him. He's the only creative midfield that we have at Arsenal. I think he's been injured as well during this season. He looks very tired mentally and physically, and that was obvious, And this is the main problem for Arsenal for the last 2-3 seasons. When you lose 3-4 important players, then all over. It's over.
Let me ask you, staying with Arsenal's top players, actually, I don't know if you're aware of it, former Liverpool defender Jamie Carragher, some interesting things to say about Arsenal and their trajectory under Mikel Arteta over the weekend. He talked about Declan Rice, right? He's 26 years old. He said, I think Declan has been Arsenal's best player this season. I'm not saying he'd give it another 12 months, but those doubts might kick in another 12 months. It might be different for somebody like Saliba, who's been there a little longer and is desperate to get their hands on silverware. What do you make of that? Has Jamie Carragher got a point, do you think, that some of Arsenal's best players, like Rice, like Saliba, might be starting to think about whether this team is good enough?
I can understand what he said because I think all of the players, at the Arsenal, they have ambitions and they want to win titles. It's good to improve, years after years, individually and collectively, but you need to get silverware. And players like Saliba, like Rice, those guys, they want to win. Saka as well. He wants to win medals, He wants to be remembered at the end of his career. This is exactly what you said before about Manchester United, We would forget their season if they win the European season. I disagree with that because I think the trophy are important, but it's the image that you leave in people's mind that are more important. And Rice, he may think that one day he will be impatient, he will be thinking, I'm wasting my time, with this club. But honestly, since 2 years, when he left West Ham, he became a different player. He's not the same player than when he was the captain of West Ham,
No,
he reached the next step. So altogether, I'm pretty sure if Arsenal are doing the right things on the transfer market next season, in the summer, I think they will come back stronger. But I've been reading things about selling Saliba for Real Madrid. I'm thinking, what the hell? You want to bring strikers, wingers, and then you sell
your best defender.
What's the point?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a step back if you do that.
If you were 26 and Arsenal came in amongst other clubs, would you go there? The fact they haven't won a trophy for 5 years?
Well, there is two reasons why I left Arsenal,
Okay. One?
The first one was because of a woman.
Okay.
And the second one was because of I wanted to win the Champions League.
And you didn't think Arsenal...
I lost different European Cup finals, and that was the only trophy I never won during my career, and I wanted to do that, and I thought I could do so, with Barcelona. That's why I left Arsenal, because I thought to myself, there is no point I will win it, with Arsenal. And they reached the final, at Paris, I think 3 years or 4 years later. And we all know the scenarios, what happened during that game. But since then, Arsenal, last week, it was only the third semi-final. So it was a big talk as well in Paris, Some of my friends, I'm working, on radio in France, and they were mocking me because of that. They were saying that Arsenal does not belong to the biggest club in Europe because they never won the Champions League, and it's only 3 semi-final in the history. Yeah. And to be honest with you, it's hard to say that they're right.
Yeah. Okay. We won't mock Arsenal anymore when we come back. All right. We'll carry on our chat, but we'll talk about big clubs.
talkSPORT Drive with Andy Goldstein. Monday to Friday afternoon from 4 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.